Welcome to the Vault Studios NFL podcast, an Australian twist on all things NFL. The boys are cracking into a nice cold beer from Burnley Brewing. Let's join them.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the NFL podcast, fresh off a week off, and your first of the 20. The new season hasn't technically started yet, so it's hard to say that, but your first since the Super Bowl, joined by the great man, the just proudly wearing his Tampa Bay Buccaneers gear. We missed him after the Super Bowl. Richie, welcome, mate, and congratulations. A long-time Tampa Bay fan. How are you feeling?
Mate, this is why I lifted all those weights in the preseason, for exactly this reason.
That's excellent. Did you just want to thank God before we moved on?
No, I definitely would thank my wife for all the support she gave me this year.
Yeah, it's been
through it. It's been incredible. In all seriousness, though, it was a lot of fun. It was great. I've been lucky enough to be a Bucs fan for both Super Bowls, and there's plenty of teams who've never had it. So to be lucky enough to see two, and I think most people listening to this show would know I'm a Richmond fan as well. And, you know, I went a bloody long time without one there. And then trust me, you do not take championships for granted. It can be a long time between drinks. So I loved it. It was, as you know, I watched it at home.
Mm-hmm.
I did. I'd moved houses before it, hence why I haven't been on the podcast, because this house has been a shambles. But I moved house right before it, watched it at home, really was able to watch the game, so really knew exactly what was going on. Unlike, you know what it's like, we watch Super Bowls at the pub and you're pissed and you're watching your bets and you're trying to get some food and you're not really watching it. I really was glad I had the opportunity to sit there and watch the game. Watching it a second time, I didn't need to be as nervous as I was the first time I was watching it live. But
it is the Chiefs, though. We've seen the Chiefs do some miraculous things.
That was my biggest concern. And it wasn't really till afterwards where you started hearing stats like Mahomes ran 197 yards behind the line of scrimmage. And just
497.
497, sorry. Just
it's insane.
Crazy stuff like that. The defense was so good. The defensive scheme that was drawn up for them, clearly they'd learned a lot from when they played them last time. But the scheme that was drawn up, and then that defense turned up. They are big game players, every single one of them, and quite a few of them are up for free agency, which we'll talk about later. But I thought they were outstanding. The secondary had got healthy, which they weren't for the championship game. So, you know, the offense just had to do enough, which is what they did. They played mistake-free football. The D were exceptional. I heard these, I don't know if you've seen it. It was like just idiotic reports saying, oh, there's the blueprint for taking care of Mahomes. That's laughable. Like, not many other teams have got the personnel to do what the Buccaneers did in that game. And
what
the way I sent you a video.
Put insane pressure on a quarterback. Spoiler alert. It's pretty much the recipe to beat any quarterback on any team, anywhere in the world, no matter what level you're playing at. Pressure the quarterback. Pressure and stopping pressure are the two biggest culminations of winning and losing in football. So,
exactly.
And hot take.
I sent you a video on a guy on YouTube. I wish I could remember his name, so I'd plug him because he's really good.
Brett Coleman.
That's him. So go look him up on YouTube. He's outstanding. And the work he does on scouting draft picks is so good. So he's really good in the off season. But he basically broke down what the Buccaneers did, and the defense they ran, and they got away with it all day. They barely had to blitz. White and David were just all over the field.
We talked about how important Levante David was going to be if he playing. Yeah,
like Kelsey made catches, but that's because Kelsey's one of the finest tight ends in the league, if not the best right now. But he was always there to make the tackle. He never had any huge plays. He actually dropped quite a few that weren't like him. But
I think I put this down, and I put this down purely to, you can analyze anything you want, And you can sit there and go, they've got, Tom Brady's old and Mahomes is young. He can throw it off any platform and he can do this and he can do that. And, how are they going to stop Tyreek Hill getting over the top, and then Kelsey burning them underneath and all. You can analyze anything how you want, and you can overanalyze. And we're prone to doing it. We have a podcast on the sport, for God's sake. So we certainly analyze things. But sometimes, and I think unless you've played football, and that's at any form, it can be at the lowest or the highest level, there's football players. And sometimes when you go on a field, the other team just on the day has more football players than you. And you watch that game back, the Buccaneers just had guys who played football better on the day. It's as simple as that. And there's no stat that I can go, this is why they covered. They played a lot of cover 2. They played a lot of 2 high. Yeah. But there was holes open. But every time the pass off, you've got Winfield drilling someone as he catches it. Just consistent pressure. If they missed a tackle, there was 5 guys straight after him making the tackle on him. The effort, the football, on offense, you've got Brady who, he shouldn't even be playing football anymore from what history tells us. But he doesn't look close to being done. Gronk, again, everyone's going, Gronk's done. He's done nothing all year. I said in our betting show that I guarantee you Gronk scores a touchdown. Any money you want, no matter what the scoreline is, Gronk gets a touchdown. He gets 2, one being the first of the game, the momentum. What do you reckon the Bucks, all those Bucks players, those young guys, when they seen that first quarter, Brady, who never scores points in a Super Bowl in the first quarter, he's only got 9 points in it. No one cares. You reckon Brady cares? And he hits Gronk. What do you reckon all those young guys are sitting on the sideline doing like Evan White going, oh boy. And the other thing, real. This feeling's real. We can win this.
Talking about Gronk, he's the same age as Kelsey.
Yeah.
He's like
he's so broken. He's so broken.
He just had more injuries, but he had a full year off.
Mm-hmm.
I know he's a free agent because we signed him to a 1-year deal, but
he's coming.
1-year deal left on the contract that got traded.
He's coming back. There's no way he plays without Brady. If Brady's back, he's back. They're a package deal. It was great. It was awesome. I think the game was, if you don't love football, I loved that game. I know the score could have been closer, but watching a team that really on paper shouldn't have been able to do what they did through the whole playoffs, just they beat Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers on the road in the playoffs, and then they go and beat Patrick Mahomes.
Don't leave out Heineke. He could be in it.
Heineke. Next big thing. Do you know who threw for the most passing yards against the Bucks in the playoffs?
Yeah, it was him. It was Heineke.
So,
he got in the second half. Sneaky little bastard.
Before we move on, I want to thank our beautiful friends at where's it? There it is. Burnley Brewing. Thank you very much. Our beautiful friends there. Love your work. Picking up some beers in the next couple of weeks. Also, our Patreon. We gave away the Christian McCaffrey mini helmet. Our great man, the big horse won it. If anyone doesn't know Horsey, he runs a company called We Are 4. He does all the graphic designs for us, all the everything you can see that's graphic design or logo or video, anything. It's all We Are 4, and he never takes a cent. He's the most giving guy I've ever met. So I was really glad I could give a little bit back to him. And I was sorry to all the other guys in the Patreon. I was a little bit chuffed that Horsey was able to get it. It was big, and it's a great little mini helmet. Next month, we have a Chase Winovich Michigan Wolverines chrome helmet. It's actually really cool. It's in the bloody drawer over there. I should have grabbed it out. I'll grab it out for the end. But yeah, really cool lid. And also there's a second prize now, a box of Burnley Brewings and one of these fantastic stubby holders. So get in there. I think they've got 13 Patrons. Thank you to all our Patrons. But get in there, sign up for $10 a month. You got a chance at 2 prizes, one being a signed mini helmet, and there will be some jerseys coming. And the other being a box of really, really good beer and a stubby holder. So, thanks to all our sponsors, and thanks to ASM, All Sports Memorabilia on Facebook. They were the guys that provided these helmets for us. They're a great Facebook group. I'll put their link in the description, so go in and give them a follow. Thanks to the boys there. Let's move on. Unfortunately, we're going to start with a bit of sad news. This one came as a bit of a shock. Vincent Jackson, who, we were just talking before the show, Richie, we kind of forgot how good a player Vincent Jackson was. And the one thing that really shone out for him was a career 16.8 yards per catch. Just to put things in perspective, that would have made him 4th in the league this year for catches. That was his entire career. So an exceptional wide receiver. He was found dead at the age of 38. I don't know if it's come out yet, and to be honest, I don't look into this stuff too deeply because it's not that fun. But he was found in a hotel room away from his family. He got put as a missing person about 3 days before the police found him. He seemed fine in the hotel. He just said he was having a bit of time to himself, and then found him a couple of days later, passed away. Everyone's saying it's a CTE related thing. It's hard to know that. We don't know anything about it. I'm certainly not a doctor. And I'm certainly not Will Smith, so I can't comment on, what happened. All I know is that Vincent Jackson's dead, and he's dead way too early. It's really sad. Whether it was just suicide or it was something to do with CTE, it goes without saying, if you are having those sorts of difficulties, reach out to people. Don't dwell on it on your own. No one's alone with that sort of stuff. Anyone listens to this show that doesn't have anyone to go to, come to me. I'll always answer my phone for that sort of thing. So, just wanted to make that clear, but real sad news. And a guy we should celebrate is a terrific football player, truly terrific football player.
For a guy who came out of a Division II program, Northern Colorado, was not recruited out of high school very much, built himself an outstanding career. His first couple of years in the league were really quite quiet at San Diego. But then he got rolling in his third year with San Diego. He started posting some numbers, and then he basically had 3,000-yard seasons, all but back to back. He had an injury plague during the middle, and he really left over a contract dispute because they didn't want to pay him like a number one receiver, but he was sure as hell playing like one. So he came to Tampa, my team, so I got to see him, and he posted 3,000-yard seasons straight out of the gate. And his production really didn't start to go down until Mike Evans was drafted and became the number one option. That was really a handover of sorts. But it's a real shame. I mean, he had 50 plus touchdowns, 9,000 plus yards as a receiver. By all accounts, was an outstanding human. He was the nominee. He was Tampa Bay's Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee every single year he was at Tampa Bay, and he won the league Walter Payton Man of the Year once. So this is a guy who clearly gave to his community. I think his charity was called Jackson Gives Back or something similar like that. By all accounts, a great teammate, a great person, a great family man who clearly was struggling with some sort of depression. And as you said, extremely sad and taken far, far too early. I mean, it's funny. If you put his stats up against some of the Hall of Fame wide receivers now, it's laughable.
Yeah.
But he won't be a Hall of Famer. So I'm really glad that he does have an award like the Walter Payton Man of the Year award, because that is etched and that will be in, those are records that are kept and they're in Canton plus other places like that. So I hope and I pray he won't be forgotten, because he's not coming to reunion years or anything like that anymore. So it's extremely sad. I hate these stories. Is there, as you mentioned earlier, a connection to CTT? Who knows? It's a disease that we do not understand. I mean, there was a lot of news about Danny Frawley in the news recently. Yeah. All that stuff's just sad. And as you rightly point out, you should never, ever be embarrassed. I mean, you and I have spoken very frankly in our friendship over the years. And when you're having a tough time, and often you just need to hang out or talk or whatever it is, and things don't feel so bad. And if it is much worse, that there are places you can go. So many employees have EPA programs and things like that. I know my company does. Use them.
Look after yourself and talk to people.
He had a young family. Everything. I can't imagine what his family's going through or what he went through to get to a point where he thought, this is what I want to do. So
I think that's the hardest thing for me to understand is, we've both got young families, Rich. What point do you, because everyone has, like, I've had bad days, I've had bad months, I've had bad weeks, I've had bad years. Everyone has moments where they feel crap. And it's totally normal. And I think that what point do you have to get to where you're like, I don't want to be I don't want to be around I'm better off not being around my family anymore. That scares me. What low you would have to feel. Because for me, my family pick me up when I feel like that. I get home to my two daughters and, they light up my world. That's what family is for me. What point do you get to that where you're that low that you get home and you're like, my kids are like, I'm not good enough to be around these kids. Like I should remove myself. That scares me. And it's something I'll never understand. But all we can say is, and we won't dwell on it, just if you need, we're always here. Someone will always be there for you. I absolutely guarantee you. So if there's one person listening that's having this trouble, reach out. There is no shame in it. It is it's an illness. If you had a cold, you go to the doctor, just
Absolutely.
it's a part of looking after yourself and seeking help. So don't ever be ashamed of that. Let's move on. The big shock news coming out of Houston, which everyone kind of saw coming. Yeah, JJ Watt released a video, and he's kind of a class. He's like half a class act, JJ Watt, and then half loves the sound of his own voice. So I'm all about him. I love it. He's kind of that he's just kind of that guy that, you know what, I want to do this the right way, but also this is a great chance for people to hear me talk again. He released a video saying that he sat down with the McNair family and they mutually agreed that it was in the best interest that they part ways. This is great news for JJ Watt. I'm sorry, Texans fans, but this is the best thing, JJ Watt. He becomes a genuine free agent for the first time in his life. Teams are swooming over him. He's got a couple of good years left in him. Now, is it Defensive Player of the Year years? Who knows? Everyone thought DeMarcus Ware was done. Then he went and won a Super Bowl with Denver and had 2 15-sack seasons with Von Miller on the other side. The big rumors are, the big landing spots are obviously the Steelers. His 2 brothers play there. That's one that's been floated. Cleveland's been strongly floated to go opposite Myles Garrett. The Tennessee Titans to go with Mike Vrabel, who's his former defensive coordinator, plus a bit of an FU back to Houston, getting to play against Houston. I think he'd enjoy. JJ Watt's that sort of guy. He'd enjoy that drama. And then, of course, the Packers, because he's a Wisconsin boy, but we all know the Packers don't sign anyone talented, so I doubt he'll go there. No, actually, they've changed their tune in the last couple of years. They signed the Smith brothers, so that aren't brothers, but the Smith boys. But I wasn't shocked by this. I think it's a great move. The Texans are an absolute clusterfuck at the moment. They are a sinking ship. Everyone wants off it. Deshaun Watson is desperate to get off. The only problem is he's an idiot that signed a 5-year contract that can't get out of it now. But no one likes their hires. No one likes, is it Weatherby, the general manager? They just think the place is a shithole and everyone wants out, and they're in real trouble. But as for JJ Watt, this is huge. This is great. It's great for him. Great for the league.
Yeah, it's a shame it didn't. I mean, I guess it never would have happened if he was earlier, because we tend not to see players of his caliber hit the open market until they reach sort of this point of their career.
Like compare it to Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald and JJ Watt are the only 2 guys to win 3 Defensive Player of the Year awards. So actually, I think maybe Lawrence Taylor did as well. Either way, they're the only 2 recent guys. Yeah. Aaron Donald's not going anywhere until he wants to go somewhere.
Yeah. And as you said, all that being said, I still think he's probably the 20th best player in the free agent class this year.
Well, the thing is, people will go, he's not even a top 10 defensive end anymore. Like, maybe not, but
32 teams.
Yeah, and so there's 64.
He could be number 1 on that bunch of them.
Start. Yeah, I guarantee you he'd be. I haven't gone through, but if I went through the teams, I could put him as the number 1 defensive lineman on half the league.
Yeah, and if he's smart, he'll go somewhere where there is a top 10 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Because
Miles, I'd love to see him play with his brother.
Well, that's all the talk. So there's we could say the free agency, but why not?
No, let's do it.
A lot of talk. He's looking at a 2-year type deal, 25 million a year kind of thing.
Front loaded.
Year 1 guaranteed, year 2 not. That would be my thoughts.
That'll be what people do. Yeah. But imagine him going opposite TJ Watt. Like, TJ Watt's been unlucky 2 years in a row to not be the Defensive Player of the Year. It's just unfortunate that Aaron Donald is really, really good. Like, if anyone wants to have an argument with me why Aaron Donald shouldn't win Defensive Player of the Year awards, it'll be a real short one. But feel free to give me a call. I'll happily have it. It'll be quick because I love TJ Watt. Aaron Donald is freaking outstanding. But if you put JJ Watt opposite him, plus you've got Cam Hayward, Bud Dupree, like, that's just adding strength to strength. We're talking a bit later about Big Ben and his potential exodus of that club. That'd be great. The Packers, I don't love him at the Packers. I think he's just a guy there. I don't think that doesn't excite me. Cleveland should excite me, but it doesn't. I feel like it's a bit too of an old Cleveland move. I think you've got a good nucleus there. Why mix it? I know he's a good player.
It's a vanity pick for them.
Yeah.
They don't need it, but if it works, think what it would create.
Yeah, that's true.
That's how
If
they-
it doesn't work, they're kind of no worse off, really.
Yeah, because you're only committed to him for a year.
Yeah, and they don't have to pay Baker yet. So any team with a quarterback situation like that, you know, the Titans one is the most fun, I think. Imagine him lining up against the Texans two times a season. And he's going to be talking crap to all their offensive linemen because he's probably been doing it in training for the past decade. Either way, I think seeing JJ Watt play in a new team, it's like when Tom Brady left, and when it happened, we obviously didn't know he was going to win a Super Bowl, but I can remember just thinking, I don't know if this is going to be good or not, but the fact that Tom Brady's playing for another team is fun. Like, this is going to be, who knows how good he's going to be, but it's going to be fun. It's something to talk about and watch. And JJ Watt tweeted, the other day, free agency is wild. It's like, yeah, we get it, JJ. Everyone wants you. This is your dream.
Yeah. Every team in the league is called.
Yeah, he will be sitting at home. He'd be like, hey, agent, I'll take all the team calls.
If he goes to Tennessee, does Clowney get re-signed?
Well, that's the other one. It said it just opens up. Imagine if Vrabel's like, fuck it, let's run it back. Clowney, I got JJ. Give me a discount. Let's do it. You had your best years with him. We'll line you up with him. We'll get Landry on the other edge. Let's go. That's fun.
It's an interesting free agent class, to say the least. I'm actually, you know what? Let's just steamroll through the news so we can get to this.
Yeah. Cool. Next one. Old big Benjamin, Flashy McFlasherson, Roethlisberger. Speculation is coming from the Pittsburgh Steelers that they don't want him back. He said to them, "I'll basically play. I'll play for anything. I don't care. You can pay me minimum." He's saying on his current contract, they have to pay him $19 million next year, whether they cut him or not. That's what his hit's going to be, unless he retires. The rumors are that basically he'll agree to cut his salary to that $19 million, which is the lowest they can actually do it without paying it anyway. So they'll do that. My thing with the Pittsburgh Steelers are they don't have a good enough draft pick to get, great quarterback capital in that, that top 10 or anything like that. Mason Rudolph, we've seen, isn't the answer at backup. We know that. Other than getting hit in the face with a helmet by Myles Garrett, he's never done anything really exciting. If it wasn't for that, no one would know who he was. Simple as that.
Yeah.
I think they have to roll with Big Ben another year. They probably need to do like a second, third round quarterback sort of thing. Hope for like a Dak Prescott situation or Russell Wilson, where he just comes in and just beats him out and is way better. But I think they've got to roll with Ben for another year. They're going to be a strong defense. They've got good receiving group. They need to fix up the running back position and maybe get that O-line a bit tighter. But we've seen, I know that Cleveland game was dreadful for Big Ben in the playoffs, but he did also then go and break the record for passing yards in a game and threw 4 touchdowns. So you take out that first quarter, he has one of the best games in the history of playoffs. So, I don't think unless you've got a better option, you can't move on. He's under contract. You're paying him anyway. I think he'll play at the 19 million mark.
Well, that's the thing. I think, if they do cut in, the cap hit is 22. The hardest thing about restructuring, though, is you can't restructure for less money. The money has to stay in the contract. So they're going to have to extend him.
That's what this idea is. They'll extend it and he'll retire.
Spread the dead money. Well, even if they retire, you still have to take the cap hit because that used to be an old trick. You'd extend a contract for 10 years, spread maybe, say, 10 million over that 10. It's one every time, retire, and then the rest didn't count. Like, there was some really weird rules which they've cleaned up. So you can't play those games anymore. So
you can spread it out over the next 6 years instead of paying it all in one. That's the idea.
Exactly. Now, his cap hit for next year, as you said, is around the 19-20 mark regardless. So there's nothing they can do about it. You almost may as well bring him back. If I was them, go draft. It's a pretty good rookie quarterback class this year.
Who's the guy out of North Dakota, out of the Bisons, where Carson Wentz is from? Is it Lance something?
Yeah, hang on. I'll have it. Hang on.
Other way, that there's some great, second, third round talent quarterbacks, and we've seen in the past you can get guys in the second and third round that can be very Trey Lance. Yeah, you can get guys in the second and third round that can be quite serviceable, if not really good. So there's no reason to think they have to trade up. They might also try and package up and move up. Who knows? I don't think they have a lot of capital to offer, but they might try and do that.
Problem with that this year is I think there'll be a lot of teams looking to do it. There is a lot of talk about 5 quarterbacks being taken this year, and we all know that
there's a lot of
even
top
if
10
you-
teams
even
that
if
don't
you're
want
kind-
quarterbacks.
But even if you're kind, 50% of first round quarterbacks fail,
Yep.
just flat out, just fail. So and they're going to take 5 potentially in the first round. Normally, you're talking about 2 or 3, and half of them still fail. They're going to take 5. 2.5 of these guys probably aren't going to make it.
Thinking
So
like there was 4. You had Baker, Darnold, Josh Allen, Josh Rosen, and Lamar Jackson one year. And look at that, Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson, like one's got an MVP. Josh Allen was in that area last year, and Baker is on the verge of either being really good or, I don't know, average for a long time. I think either way, it's hard to argue he hasn't worked out. If you told Cleveland this is what you're going to get, I think they probably still do it. They might not do it over Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, but he still goes in the first round. Sam Darnold, we're yet to see, and Josh Rosen is currently not on an NFL team. So
exactly, and even if you look at well, let's say the Winston year, because it's my team, it's easy for me to talk about.
Yep.
If you look at him and
Mariota
from the Ducks, you could arguably say both failed.
You could comfortable. We're 5 years removed. Are either of them starting quarterbacks?
Nope.
That's a fail for me.
So this is what we're talking about, and we're being pretty kind, and 50% still fail, and that's counting them as being okay.
Yeah,
if you really want to be mean about it, you could say both of them were failures.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't get out of their 5-year contract, so even if you go on that mark alone, probably even more fail. So trading up for rookies and things like that, it's so risky. It's so risky.
Because you got to get so much. Well, again,
I'll draft but run back. You got to run back Roethlisberger because you know what you're getting.
100%, and it's a great segue this conversation into trading up for quarterbacks into our next topics, which is Carson Wentz, who, is now playing for the Colts, which safe to say, I think everyone in the world saw this coming. It doesn't always work out that way, but most people saw this as a great fit. Carson Wentz, they gave up a lot of capital to get him, and they've just walked away 2 years after giving him a huge contract. And the Colts, if you don't know, Frank Reich was the offensive coordinator the year Philadelphia won the Super Bowl, the year Carson Wentz, and until his injury was on pace to be an MVP, depending on other things, obviously, but he was certainly in the very, very comfortably in the discussion that year before injury. They reunite. I think this is a terrific move by both teams. They gave up a 3rd-round pick this year. It's a 2nd next year, but if he starts 70, 80% of the games for 2 years, it turns into a 1st-round pick. So I think if the Colts would be pretty happy if he starts 80% of the games for them. Let's be honest. Let's remember they can bench him. That he has to start, not just play. So they can, if he's bad enough, they can just be like, you know what, we're just going to bench him next season, and they don't have to give up a 1st-round pick. So it's a great move by them. The Eagles are just prepared to dump someone they've invested so much in. His last season was dreadful. Like I don't think the Eagles should have kept him because the reports coming out of both parties just being completely against each other. That was certainly, massive, and him being trouble and him fighting with Doug Peterson. But the Eagles have kind of just done what the Eagles do and just fired everyone, and they'll just start again. But what's your take on him going to the Colts? I love it. I all of a sudden like Carson Wentz and want nothing but success for him.
I think it's good for both parties. One, the Eagles management, teammates, by all accounts, everyone was out on him. Yeah. So they got him out. They got a teeny bit of draft capital back, but most importantly, they got rid of that contract. That contract was terrible for them. It was a handcuff for them, much like the Rams getting out from under the Jared Goff contract. Huge wins for both these franchises, getting rid of a guy who you were out on anyway, and you owed a lot of money to. So kudos to both of those being able to pull it off. And in the receiving in both accounts, and I'll just quickly do the Rams and the Lions first. One, the Lions have the cap room to do this move. So good for them. And they get some draft capital. Flipping over the other side, the Colts didn't have to give up anything because they were taking on an unfriendly contract. And Frank Reich will obviously think he can get the Wentz he used to have.
Well,
so it's really a win-win.
Unless there's some sort of physical injury, which and they will go, oh, he's hurt. It's a dumb move by the Colts. Hey, Joe Blow sitting on your couch looking at ESPN. You think the Colts aren't doing some physical tests on him? It's called a medical you've got to pass, which is, I imagine I've never seen it before, but I imagine it's pretty invasive into his body and his physical, like his injuries. I think if there was any concern of that, like we've seen this so many times where, you know, teams give up nothing for a guy because they know this guy's injured. We're taking a huge risk on this guy. But if anyone's got the knowledge of that, I'm sorry, Jackson sitting on his couch watching TV. It's not you. It's the Colts and it's the Eagles. I think Frank Reich will be looking at this saying he's healthy because he's passed his medical. He's coming in. The problem's mentally, and I can fix him because I had him playing at an MVP level, and I'm sure he's sitting there going, I don't know what happened after I left. And I'm also sure before the trade happened, Frank Reich probably had a couple of phone conversations with Carson Wentz going, mate, what's going on? And he's just like, who knows? He might have been like, you know what? I hate it here. I hate it. Doug Peterson treats me like shit. They benched me and I was busting my ass. My whole O-line was hurt. Yeah, my O-line was busted up. We had so many injuries. They've got no wide receivers. Like Frank, bloody Ward was my number one receiver. He's a CFL reject. Like, who knows? He might have been like, shit, Carson, you sound like you need a divorce. This is going to help both of you. All right, I'm in. You're going to come and work hard for me? Yes, coach, I will. All right, get him over here. Hey, let's take a chance on it. You know, what's their option? You know, bringing back Phillip Rivers? He won't be worse than what Phillip Rivers was last year. And I thought Rivers was good last year. He'll be better than Phillip Rivers was last year. The Colts are now a legitimate Super Bowl contender with the rest of that team around Carson Wentz.
Well, if you just think about the O-line he's now behind.
Mate, you could just put Quentin Nelson on the Eagles and that O-line's 15 times better.
It's so
good. And that's not all the Eagles' fault. Like, they had Brandon Brooks, who was an all-pro guard the year before, out for the season. What's his name? Jason Peters injured for the season at left tackle. Johnson, who's one of the best right tackles in the league for the past 4 or 5 years. But the problem with the Eagles are they're all getting old, and this is what happens if you're injured once every now and again, you get a few injury problems. You know what? Move on. But every season they're having the same issues with this offensive line and their defensive line and their D-backs, and it's like at some point, you know, coincidence becomes, you know, it's actually a problem, and these guys just can't stay healthy. And you've got to get guys that can, whether they're not as good or not. You need guys to play 16 games, in particular on the offensive line. I think it's a great move. And as I said to you before, I thought I hated Carson Wentz. It was like I felt about Tom Brady. I thought I hated Tom Brady. I don't. I just hate the Patriots. And when Carson Wentz left the Eagles, I was instantly like, I like Carson Wentz. I think he's going to be good. I do like. He's redhead. He's fun. He makes big plays on third down. He runs around and makes everyone miss. Like, now that it's not going to be the Cowboys twice a year, I'm kind of like, yeah, this could be fun. So I love teams that do this, and we'll go on to a bit of a topic I wanted to talk about. You know, we're seeing this trend now with teams that they're just happy to move away from, you know, mistake quarterbacks. Not all of them are mistakes, but they still move away. You know, you look most recently, Josh Rosen popped up as, you know, they got rid of him after a year, brought in Kyler Murray. Even as far as like, you know, the Jaguars, they're going to take, you know, Lawrence this year. There's teams in the past, and I'm talking, you know, years ago, that would have been like, nah, we can, Gardner Minshew can be the guy. Let's roll with Gardner Minshew for a couple of years. Teams now are just getting more and more on the bandwagon of like the Bucks, you know. Teams would have stayed with Jameis Winston. He threw 30 touchdowns. Yeah, and 5,000 yards. That's not bad. That was Bruce Arians going, no, we can do better. And maybe he knew it was Tom Brady, or maybe he just thought, I'll get a guy in the draft. Like, quarterbacks are becoming, you know, they used to be up here, and you'd like, nah, once you're the quarterback on a team, they're just going to ride with you. They're going to ride with the Trent Dilfers for decades. Like, imagine if 20 years ago, the Ravens went, nah, Trent Dilfer's not that good. Let's just get someone better, and just got rid of him and got a better quarterback in. They might have won 3 Super Bowls with that defense. You know, now teams are kind of going, nah, the quarterback's just a guy. We can scheme, and put players around people now that, can do it. It's not just the quarterback. It's almost becoming a bit more college-like, Rich. You see with Alabama, a different quarterback in the Heisman conversation every single year. Yet, does that quarterback ever do well in the NFL? No, because they're just dudes that they put all the talent around. And I think teams are coming, and I like it. I like the fact that quarterbacks just aren't held on a pedestal anymore, that they're graded the same as, because if there was defensive ends that performed like, Gardner Minshew, they'd be cut halfway through the season. He was not a good player. They would be cut. So it's different.
Yeah, look, it certainly is. And I know you threw some shade at Alabama's quarterback. I'm telling you, he's probably going to get drafted in the first round this year. But
I'm telling you he will, but I'm telling you, like every other Alabama quarterback, and I'll get him up. There's not many that have gone on for amazing success in the NFL.
No,
yeah,
it certainly hasn't been.
Tua could. Jalen Hurts was once an Alabama quarterback, if I'm not correct. I'm not a college guru like you, Richie.
Well, Mac Jones is the guy who won the national title this year. So we'll see how he comes out. But gee whiz, he had some talent around him this year. I mean, he's going to have 3 offensive linemen and 2 wide receivers potentially going in the top 15 picks of the draft. That's what they're looking at. Yeah. Plus, and a running back.
Harris,
a running back, has every chance of being taken too. But when you have, Devontae Smith win, like your wide receiver wins the Heisman Trophy. I mean, and quite frankly, his teammate Jalen Waddle will probably get drafted ahead of him. That's amazing.
Unless Miami want to go with the Alabama friendship trail of Tua and Devonta Smith, which I hope they do.
Those two will be gone by the time Miami gets to them.
At pick 3? Miami pick 3. Houston.
I'm thinking of their pick at 15.
No. So my thought was they'd get him at 3, Devonta Smith, and pair him with Tua. That'd be fun.
No, they'll take Jamar Chase. He's the best receiver in the class.
Out of LSU?
Yeah, without question. He's the best receiver in that class.
But I just think, I think it's quarterback teams just seem more, like you said, Carson Wentz traded away. Already talk about Big Ben. The Steelers are basically saying, we don't really want you, Ben. And you had a good year last year, but we think we can find a guy that can do what we need and not cost us that money, And, we're going to see what happens with Dak Prescott and that sort of thing. Like, he's going to be paid. People can like it or not like it. It may not be the Cowboys, but if he hits free agent, he will get paid. Some team will pay him. I guarantee you, I'll bet you any money you want, someone will pay him, $35 million a year. He's going to get that money because it's just the way the market's going. The only thing that could hurt him is the cap's going to drop and teams might not be able to afford it. But there'll be a team that will take him. And it could be something like I could see a world where Cleveland are sitting there with $60 million in cap and they see Dak Prescott and no one can really afford it and they go, shit, do we just sign Dak Prescott and say to Baker, hey, here's some competition? I can 10 years ago, you would never see that. You'd be like, no, that guy's our quarterback. We don't bring in anyone that can compete with him. Now it's kind of like, hey, we're going to draft it. Like, look at the Packers. We're going to draft a first round pick quarterback this year, Aaron. Have fun. Like, it was a bad pick, but they still do it. The blatant lack of respect that they're shown, it's different. It's changing. It's the way the quarterback is worshipped when they're not. The elite ones will always be and will always be worshipped, but it's more the mid-tier guys. Teams are just. I don't think we're going to have teams sitting with Andy Dalton for 10 years anymore. They're going to be going, all right, Andy Dalton's middle of the pack. Let's see. Let's take a chance. You know what? Let's draft a quarterback. We got a top 5 pick here. Let's draft a quarterback. Like, what's the worst? He's the best guy on the board, and he could be the generational talent we want. Let's take the chance. I don't think these middling quarterbacks are going to sit on rosters anymore for a long, long time. So we'll see how it goes. What we wanted to go into now, Rich, obviously just before the Super Bowl, the awards were given. We do pick our awards every year. I wanted to go through and just go through them and think we actually got a fair few right this year. A lot of them went on trend with, what kind of happened. I'll start with where did I want to start? Did you know that the clutch performance play of the year was the Hail Mary from the Hail Murray from Kyle Murray to Andre Hopkins. You know they give an award for that?
Should be given to Hopkins. He had to do all the catching.
Hey, Murray threw it up, okay, Richard? Don't you belittle that little guy whose head's way too big for his body. I don't care what anyone says. It's unnatural. Or get a smaller helmet. And Richie, speaking of helmets, if you were going to get a helmet, where would you go if you were in Australia and wanted a helmet to play football?
I'd go to US Sports Gear, who in the last couple of weeks were excited to announce that they will be stocking Vicus, whatever they want to call themselves, this year. No, I think it's Visus. And they have released the Vicus 02, the upgrade of the 01 helmet, which scored the best score Virginia Tech has ever had in their helmet ranking systems. And then 2 weeks later, they released the 02 Trench, specifically designed for offense and defensive linemen, and it scored even better on that same ranking set. So they now have the number 1 and number 2 ranked helmets on the Virginia Tech system. Pre-order information will be available towards probably the middle of March with the shipment of helmets, because obviously they look after the NFL and college football first. We hope to see them start to ship to Australia in late May, early June.
Perfect for all the Australian seasons that are coming up later in the year, I would think.
Very exciting.
And if you want to know where to go, no helmet.
They won't be cheap, but I have never. When you look, give people some ideas. So my last helmet I wore when I was playing was the Vengeance Z10, and it scored a 5 point something on the Virginia Tech rankings, and the lower the score, the better. So a 5 point whatever and change, and it was the lightest helmet on the market. ISIS released the 02, so their newest helmet, and it scored a 0.75.
Jeez. What's the F7 score that I wear?
1.75.
So for safety reasons, I should definitely get a new helmet. That's what you're saying.
Oh, for safety, absolutely.
Yeah, and I need something a bit more streamlined now that I'm not an offensive lineman anymore. I need to be able to move a bit more when I'm sitting on the bench because I'm now useless.
Yeah, it is amazing how fast helmet technology is moving. It's incredible. Like
stuff. That's why, and it's good.
It is good. I mean, that Z10 was released 4 years ago. Like it's not old, and it's certainly not bad considering the helmet that I wore in my first year was a 1-star helmet that would have scored about 50 on that same ranking system.
I can remember my rookie year, 14 years ago. The helmets before air was in the helmets. The helmets were just the padding in it, and you would hit someone and you'd just be ringing. Like, you'd be like, what am I doing? And I remember putting on a helmet with air in it for the first time and being like, it's like wearing a couch. It's like we're headbutting each other. This is the greatest thing ever. And now you wear those helmets and you're like, this sucks. This helmet still hurts. The technology's gone a long way. Everything for US Sports Gear description tags. If you're on Facebook, Twitter, anything you're on, it's all in there. Give them a click. Go and get your helmet, especially if you're playing in Australia. Make sure you get it done. Coach of the year, though, we weren't shocked with this one. Kevin Stefanski. None of us really picked it at the start of the year, but it was certainly well-deserved. He's turned around a franchise that has been dreadful for a long time.
100%. We talked about it, I guess, as they continue to play well. 11 wins for a team that hasn't seen double-digit wins in forever. Huge effort. I hope it continues for their sake, for Browns fans' sake, because I really do think he's an exceptional coach. And the only reason why you and I didn't have him is because we didn't have them with that amount of wins. I didn't think they'd be that good. They surprised me. No, I had them. I had it looking into the playoffs as a wild card. Well, I kind of predicted for the Cardinals what the Browns did in a way. I thought the Cardinals were going to be that team this year. Yeah. That's why I went with Cliff Kingsbury. And they looked like it at points, but then didn't come through. But Stefanski, very well deserved. And I think the Browns got a good one. I think they're finally, after having Hugh Jackson for 3 years, they deserve to get one eventually. And good front office leadership as well. Yeah, 100%. Comeback player of the year. We don't need to go too deep into this one. It was Alex Smith. We've talked about him at length. There's documentaries on him. Incredible season. Do you know he didn't get unanimous? One person didn't vote for him. Who'd they vote for out of interest? I don't know. It just doesn't have who. It just says it doesn't show who. There was one vote that wasn't him. The rest was
Yeah, I'd love to know what their thought. Was it just some salty asshole that was like, "Oh, I got hurt when I played in the NFL and no one gave me an award"? That's what it would have been. So, some dude like that. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Chase Young, defensive end out of Washington. We both predicted this at the start of the year. He was outstanding. Only had 7.5 sacks, which people are going to be like, wasn't that good? His pressures were insane, and his run home was, I know they only won 6 games or whatever, but they made the playoffs, and his play was a big part of them winning the playoffs, getting into the playoffs. Well deserved.
For a long time.
Also, there's only about 4 rookies in the history of the NFL that have actually had double-digit sack seasons. So I can tell you 2 of them off the top. Like 3 of them, I can tell you. Joey Bosa's one. Sean Merriman. Remember Sean Merriman from the Chargers before he got hurt? Yeah, he was the best.
Juicing, you mean?
And DeMarcus Ware. They're the 3. I think maybe Von Miller did too. But there's only a handful of guys that get double-digit sacks in their first season.
It's hard to get double-digit sacks any time in your career.
Yeah, you need everything to go your way to get sacks, especially the pressures there. But I think, Chase Young, fine selection. And he's, as a Cowboy fan, that terrifies me that for years to come, we're going to play against him. He's going to be the next. He could be the next like Aaron Donald sort of guy, in my opinion. He's that good.
He's special.
Offensive Rookie of the Year. Honorable mention to Justin Jefferson. I think it's just so hard for a non-quarterback to win this thing. You need, like, Justin Jefferson literally broke every receiver record, rookie record, or he broke the yards rookie record. We remember back a few years ago when Zeke Elliott led the league in rushing yards in his rookie year, broke the rookie rushing record, and Dak Prescott still got the award. It's going to go, any quarterback that kind of plays 16 games and performs well is going to get it. But I think it's also worth mentioning Justin Herbert broke the record for touchdown catches by a rookie this year. 31 touchdowns. He's the only rookie to ever throw 30 touchdowns. The record was held by Baker Mayfield with 27. Before it was Cam Newton with 24. So 30 touchdowns in your rookie year on a team that, wasn't great. And he didn't and he didn't start till week 3. So he missed 2 games. It's hard to argue. I'm bummed for it's like talking about TJ Watt. I'm bummed for Justin Jefferson that he didn't get it. But again, I'd have the argument that Justin Herbert deserved it over anyone else purely on the history of guys who have won this award and the numbers he put up this year and how he played. He gave hope to a team that had really no hope. Like, they were not a good football team, bad offensive line, good receiving core, which he took advantage of. But yeah, I think it's hard to argue he deserved it. Next guy, again, we went over this before. It's hard to argue. Aaron Donald. Sorry, TJ Watt. If you'd got it, I wouldn't have argued too hard against you either. But Aaron Donald, 13.5 sacks from D tackle. And that's a down year in sacks. 14 tackles for loss, 28 quarterback hits, 4 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, all that with the highest amount of triple teams. Listen to what I'm saying, Richie. The highest amount of double teams, in the history of the NFL. The highest amount of double teams in the history of the NFL we've ever seen recorded. Now, they think they've only been recording it for 20 years, but so what? Like, that's insane. It's insane. Yeah. It was something like 73% of his snaps he was double teamed. That's just, I'm sorry. I said it's a short argument for me. Aaron Donald's the defensive player of the year. Offensive player, or what I like to call MVP that's not a quarterback. Some was pretty easy. It went to Derrick Henry, 2,000 yards. It's hard to think that a running back has a season like that and doesn't win MVP, but it's the nature of the award now. And I think this is how it'll go. I think what it'll be from now is the MVP is always going to be a quarterback, but the offensive player of the year is kind of becoming the non-quarterback MVP, because it's been a wide receiver, running back, or a running back for the past 5 or 6 years now. I think last time it was was Matt Ryan, who won both awards, and everyone was like, this is stupid. Like, why? It's dumb. So I think that's what they've done now.
I'm super concerned about him next year. He is way over the magic touch mark.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, way over it.
Could he be the anomaly? Is that the right? The anomaly of the stat? Like,
would anyone have said Alexander at the Seahawks?
Yeah.
Nobody thought he would go off the cliff.
He had 30 touchdowns. He had 30 touchdowns. 2 years later, he was out of the NFL. Larry Johnson had 1,700 yards, 1,600, 700, and 1,800 yards in a 3-year span.
It's
big contract.
It's 325 or 350 touches or something is the magic number. And if you do it 2 years in a row, you're guaranteed to go off the cliff. And if you look at his touches last year were, hang on, I've got it here, 322. And then this year, he had 392. He nearly had 400 touches this year.
392. Everyone who's sitting there at home right now, or wherever you are at work, listening, whatever, listen wherever you want. I don't know why I brought that up. Everyone who's listening right now, do yourself a favor. Google DeMarco Murray. Just have a little, just look at him. You want to talk about the cliff and running into the ground? One of the smartest free agency decisions the Cowboys ever made. And I loved DeMarco Murray. I loved him. But just look him up. Look up Larry Johnson. Look up Sean Alexander. There are a few anomalies, though. Am I saying that right? Anomalies?
You nearly nailed that. Murray had 392 carries. Plus, I'm sure he had some...
about 60 catches
well that season.
Yeah.
Oh, God, he had 60. Geez, he had a lot of touches.
Good play,
you start pushing up to 400 touches, look out. That is a load on your body, no matter who you are. That is hard to maintain. I hope he does, don't get me wrong, but I wouldn't be drafting him to my fantasy team next year.
They say an NFL running back with 250 carries gets the physical trauma, right? Over the space of a long time, the physical trauma that a human body receives in a fatal car crash 3 times off 250 carries. That's the amount of, now obviously that's stacked up, but I'm telling you, your body feels that. Your body still, if it's over, if you got hit by a car like 15 times a day at 10 kilometers an hour, by the end of the week or the end of the day, you're probably going, shit, I'm fucking sore. I mean, and I tell you, if you do that once a week for 3 years, you're gonna be real sore. That's what I've. It's just humans. We can't withstand it. And I hope it doesn't happen. Like you, and they have guys that it hasn't happened to. LT obviously continued on for a while. Adrian Peterson's a great example. He kind of still is getting it done, even though he's an old man now in running back years. But it's very rare. I hope it doesn't happen because I love watching Derrick Henry. No one that big and that strong should run the way he runs. It's almost, I've got this little joke that I think I've said to you before, Rich. If Derrick Henry could give me 1% of his athleticism, I could probably make the NFL. And that's not a brag by me. I think he could give the average footballer in the world 1% of his athleticism, and they'd almost be good enough for the NFL. That's how good an athlete I think Derrick Henry is. If you look up his stats, if you haven't watched a lot of Derrick Henry, and just sit back and enjoy. And another guy you can look up some stats of is the MVP for this year. Everyone was pretty sure it was going to happen. Aaron Rodgers. When they drafted Jordan Love, everyone was like, oh, he's going to leave. He's going to crack the shit and say, trade me, rah. And I remember sitting there with you, Rich, and going, no, he's not. This is fuck you mode for Aaron Rodgers now. Aaron Rodgers isn't that sort of guy. He's not that sort of, how many years have they not given him the talent he would want around him? Like, how many years have they done it for? Every year of his career, pretty much. And, they got rid of Greg Jennings. They got rid of Randall Cobb when he wanted him. Every year he's put up with this. And he never cracks the shits. He puts it in himself and goes, all right, I'm going to perform at my best. I think it's a very admirable trait of Aaron Rodgers that I think gets overlooked. Like some quarterback, like if you did that to Cam Newton, can you imagine the tantrum he'd be having? Like there's not many guys that put up with that sort of stuff. Tom Brady did it for a long time because he was just that good. We now know that, he put up with it with under-talented guys. There are quarterbacks who just don't put up with it. Like you see Russell Wilson right now complaining, saying he wants protection. I agree with him. We've been shouting at the Seahawks for what feels like a decade to get a better offensive line. But, Aaron Rodgers just shuts up, goes about it, performs week in, week out, no matter who plays, who's injured, who's on the field. He just performs and he makes guys around him better. His teammates love him. I just wish his team could stop fucking screwing him over because I'd love to see what he could have done at the Bucs this year.
God, who knows? It's funny. Their general manager, when asked about, would you trade him and blah 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 at the end of the year. They go, we're not going to trade Aaron Rodgers. We're not that stupid. I'm like, well, you drafted Jordan Love. Maybe you are that fucking stupid.
And AJ Dillon, when you've already got two running backs that are starting running backs. Like Aaron Jones is a great running back, and Williams, the backup, is a real serviceable guy too. In an era when no one gives a shit about running backs, you can literally go into free agency, throw a rock, and hit a guy that can get 1,000 yards for you next year. Like the Panthers are contemplating trading Christian McCaffrey away to get Deshaun Watson. I bet you Houston is sitting there going, "We don't fucking want him. We don't want to run him."
They should do it if they could get him for that.
That is, if they could go, we'll give you Teddy, CMC, and 2 first-round picks, and Houston are like, yeah, all right, I'd do it.
Like that.
I'd be like, sorry, hey, Christian McCaffrey, you're an outstanding player, but this is fucking Deshaun Watson. Like, you know what I mean? I said just this running back, and I guess I kind of, not knowing Aaron Rodgers, I felt proud of him for some reason. That's the kind of effect he has on me as a player. That's how I feel about it. It makes me really happy that he did that, because the organizations are assholes to players. They really are. They treat players like shit a lot of the time. And I think Aaron Rodgers has been completely taken advantage of. And I know the Packers know what they have in Aaron Rodgers and how good he is and all that sort of stuff. But most other organizations would do everything physically possible to put all the talent around him. And let's not be honest, it's not like they're out there signing superstar defensive players left, right, and center and spending all their money in other areas. Like, you know, they signed David Baccarati, the left tackle. They let Brian Balaga, who was a great right tackle, leave in free agency. It's not like they're spending it else. It's not like they're like, oh, you know, he's got no receivers, but he's got a great offensive line they pay for. You know, they just let guys walk all the time. So,
the crazy thing, you know what I don't get about it?
What?
There's no owner. It's not your money. Like, I just don't get it.
It's weird. It's a weird team. They always have been. They've only just started getting kind of more active in free agency because they're realizing, you know, if we keep drafting quarterbacks in the first round to sit on the bench, we're going to have to sign some free agents. We've got to fill our roster somewhere. Hey, I got an idea. There's this great running back, Najee Harris, coming out of Alabama. Let's take him in the first this year. Or let's take a tight end in a system that barely uses them.
Harris would be gone by their pick, but I take your point.
Yeah, it's dreadful. I was proud of Aaron Rodgers that he won the MVP, and we kind of all, I guess we kind of predicted it. We kind of had that sniff that he's going to, I think it was going to go one way or the other. He was either going to pack it in and be like, nah, I'm not trying. Stick it up your ass. Bench me if you want. You still got to pay me. I don't care. Or he was going to go this way. And I guess we know what Aaron Rodgers, he's just an ultra competitor, and he wanted to, you know, I watch the Pat McAfee show a lot. If people don't watch that,
it's very funny.
It's the second best show on YouTube behind the Vault Studio by far. And, you know, not as popular, but it's second best behind the Vault. He has Aaron Rodgers on every week with AJ Hawk, and they had him on after that loss. And to his credit, he just came and said, yeah, we just got beat. Doesn't matter. And he's like, what about the ref? And he's like, yeah, it happens. You know, it was holding. You know, if I'd been passing the ball there and they hadn't have called it, I would have lost my mind as well. I was disappointed they missed ones earlier, but that was a penalty. And said, oh, what are you going to do next year? And he's like, I don't know. You know, the world's my oyster. I could retire if I wanted to. He's just so open and honest. He's like, I don't need to worry about money. I can retire. You know, and he's like, oh, what do you think of the awards? And he's like, yeah, I'm probably going to win MVP. I think I put together a season that was good enough. Everyone's like, oh, how arrogant is this guy? It's like, no, he's just confident in who he is and what he is. Yeah, and he doesn't give a shit about what you think of him. He's saying, yeah, I had a fucking good year. You asked Tom Brady you reckon Tom Brady going to that Super Bowl was going, I'm not good enough. Patrick Mahomes is way better. I'm 44. I've just got to try and hang in there in this game and hope my defense win it for me. No, he was walking out there going, I'm the best quarterback of all fucking time. I'm going to win my 7th Super Bowl, which is more than any other club to ever play. Like, I'm going to come out and beat this kid, and they're never going to mention his name next to mine, ever. I guarantee you. And if someone asked him before, he would have said, I'm better than Patrick Mahomes. Got 6 Super Bowls. What's this kid got? 1 Super Bowl and 1 MVP? He's a baby. Like, I think people got to get into the mindset of what these professional football players are like. They all, like Scotty Miller, the week before, what they were talking about, Scotty Miller versus Tyreek Hill. And he's like, yeah, Tyreek Hill's fast, but I always back myself. I think I could beat him. Like, Scotty, there's no way you're beating Tyreek Hill. No one in the league is. But I love it. That's their mindset, that you don't make the NFL going, yeah, this guy's better than me. You know, I'm at best a 7th round pick, an undrafted guy that, you know, I'll maybe hang on a roster for 2 years and then fade away into the darkness and no one will ever know who I was. I'm telling you, there's no NFL players sitting there doing that. Because if someone interviewed them, they'd be like, "This kid's a loser. Look at this kid over here. He's half as talented, but he's a winner. Let's get him." That's the nature. But I was proud of Aaron Rodgers to get around to it all. But it was very well deserved. And man, I hope the Packers give him some sort of support next year. I really do. I'd love to see Aaron Rodgers flying with talent around him. Problem is they never get good enough pick to go and get someone. But I'm pretty sure they could have got Justin Jefferson last year.
You can always get talented players in the first and second round, no matter where you're picking.
Absolutely.
Pick the right people.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. There's talent everywhere, and you just got to take talent. You don't. We could go on about it all day. The quarterback pick in the AJ Dillon. I'll cop a second round running back if you don't take Jordan Love in the first. You get a receiver in the first, take the running back in the second, and the tight end in the third. I could walk away from that going, okay, they're giving him talent. I'm telling you, Jordan Love was inactive for half the season. He wasn't even your first round pick that he was a healthy scratch for half the year. So you chose to have him not impact your team in any way for half a season. That is about as big a waste of a pick as you'll ever find in the NFL. There were teams that had picks that came in and they're terrible football players, and you're like, they start them every game and they're like, oh God, this tackle sucks. We've missed on this guy. He sucks. At least they got him into play. Like, at least they tried. The Packers didn't even try with this guy. They're just like, yeah, we'll see him on the bench till Rodgers has had enough of us, I guess. At 35, he's probably got 6 years left, So that's it for the award, bro. I don't think they got any wrong. Sorry?
So they could have taken the rest of the first round picks after they took Jordan Love.
Yeah.
Seattle took Jordan Brooks, linebacker. Ravens took Patrick Queen, linebacker.
I would prefer
Tennessee
him.
took the tackle Isaiah Wilson out of Georgia.
Funny, good. So story on him. Speculation is he's never going to play because he's that much of a dickhead. They've put him on like the non-injury, non-hurt list because he's just a knucklehead that doesn't turn up to practice and do it. How much can you strike out? So anyway, keep going.
Miami took the cornerback out of Auburn, Noah, and I can't say his last name.
I learned this the other day. It's like Ngimkwe, who started, I think he started 15 games.
Yes, he did.
He was very good.
Also, that was via Green Bay trading because they traded up to take Love. You could have had Jeff Gladney, the cornerback from TCU.
He was decent. Was he at the
running back?
Vikings, Gladney? Where did he go?
Yeah, Vikings. Yeah, he had a really good season. Or you could have had running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire out of LSU.
Still would have been a crap pick. But tell me some receivers that went after that in the second round. Have you got second round receivers there? And we're right off track, but I don't give a shit. This is great. I love it.
All right. Well, this is what the offseason's all about, so we can just catch up next week.
Yeah.
T. Higgins, wide receiver that went to the Bengals, was taken
better than Jordan Love.
Michael Pittman, wide receiver to the Colts, out of
better
USC.
than Jordan Love.
Jacksonville Jaguars took. Oh God, I don't know how to say this.
Marcus Chenault, Vasquez Chenault or whatever. Is that him?
Junior out of Colorado.
Yeah, he's a better pick.
KJ Hamler out of Penn State, wide
KJ
receiver.
Hamler, that was to Denver, I believe.
Yep,
better pick.
Chase Claypool, wide receiver out of Notre Dame, went to the Steelers.
Just a much better pick. I think he's pretty sure he led the league in receive. Oh no, Jefferson did. He was right up there for rookie receiving yards though. Star.
Then Van Jefferson to the Rams.
Still a better pick.
Denzel Mims, wide receiver to the Jets.
He got hurt a lot, but when he was healthy later in the year, he was much better. He was a good player.
You could have had any of those wide receivers.
Yeah. We could go. I could talk about this for months because the Packers shit me. Like I could honestly.
They could have taken Cole Kmet, the tight end out of Notre Dame, who went to the Bears.
Yeah, who didn't have a great year. Still would have been better.
He would have helped because you know what? He would have been active.
It is dreadful. It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. It's worse than when the Seahawks signed. Who was the quarterback that threw like 6 touchdowns in the last game of the season for the Packers when they rested They rested Rodgers for week 17. I forgot his name. I feel like it's Foles, but it's not.
He ended up going back to Green Bay, didn't he?
Yeah, to be a backup. And the Seahawks gave him this monster deal. And then Pete Carroll became the head coach. And then they drafted Russell Wilson in the third. And literally by week 3 of the preseason, Carroll's like, yeah, Russell Wilson's our starter. It's like, it was one of the most, and everyone was like, you're an idiot. What are you talking about? You've just signed this guy who tied the record for touchdown passes in a game. What are you doing? And then
it was Matt Flynn.
And then the rest of it's history. Russell Wilson becomes, as we know, one of the best quarterbacks in the league over the past 10 years. Just quickly, do you think Wilson will go this year? Because he's kicking up a bit of a shit. Or do you reckon it's all just phony for a bit more, hey, Russell?
I don't know if it's phony. I also think if you read the comments, they look bad. Then if you actually hear them or listen to the interviews that he's done.
He said it as a we, I feel like, more than an I. He kept saying, we need better protection. And he said, I need to do a better job too, but I also need some guys up front that can protect me. That's what he was saying.
One of the hardest people to block for because he often leaves the pocket when he doesn't need to. Like he's a big.
And he said that. To his credit, I think he's very self-aware of what he is. But what you can't say to a guy like Russell Wilson, don't leave the pocket because of how many special plays he makes. You don't want to. It's like we had some training camps going on. There's a young kid who's playing quarterback for our club this year that he throws sidearm a lot, and when he gets it right, he throws the ball really nicely sidearm. And we keep saying, no, come on, get your arm up, do it properly, the right technique. And I just keep thinking to myself, like, is that the right thing to do? What if someone had said to Patrick Mahomes when he was a kid, don't throw like that? What are you doing? Would we not have this Patrick Mahomes? You know what I mean? Like obviously this kid's not Patrick Mahomes. He's not going to be, but you never know. Like if you stifle someone's natural, like what if someone said to Lamar Jackson, no, you're a pocket quarterback. What if when the Ravens drafted him, they said, we're not going to install a system that suits you. You're going to play like a proper quarterback in a pro system where you make your reads and you throw the ball from the pocket. Does Lamar Jackson win an MVP? I don't know. I think teams are becoming more open to changing things for quarterbacks. So if you start to go, don't scramble Russell, does that hurt him? Does that hurt him as a player?
They do well. But look, Russell Wilson's not going anywhere.
I don't think so.
His base salary this year is next to nothing. They only got to give him $19 million in cash. But if they cut him or trade him, the hit is $58 million. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah. You're right.
Like he's owed 19 this year, 24 next year, and 27 the year after in cash money. And his cap hit is $58 million this year, $26 million next year, and $13 million in the final year. So he is playing for the Seahawks this year as an absolute minimum.
Yeah, I think what he's saying, this is the first time we've kind of seen him go. That's it. We're going to find out in the next few weeks. People think I don't think the Texans are going to trade Watson.
I wouldn't. I'd make him sit out.
Unless he holds out. Yeah, unless he seriously holds out. But I would wait for that moment because when he starts holding out, his value goes up more. It keeps rising the longer this goes.
What's the Texans? Draft a quarterback because he's not happy. You're going to have to work out something.
This is the problem with the Texans, though. They don't have any fucking draft picks because they keep trading all away for everyone. But they're in a real hole.
Well, who's the best quarterback in free agency? Oh, it's Dak. You can't get him.
I don't think Dak hits free agency. I really don't. I think
I don't think he will either. But right now, he's due to become.
He is.
The best.
Who else? Cam Newton's a free agent.
No thanks.
I don't think there's many. Not off the top of my head.
I'd just go get a second round quarterback. Like whatever.
Yeah.
I'd make him hold out because.
Unless you get a deal that just you get like 3 first-round picks in 2 seconds before the draft, and you're like, shit, this means we can draft. You get the top 3 from Miami plus a few more. Well, you reckon you need 2?
The deal, so because the Jets have got him. So if
you're the Jets, would you do that? Would you trade pretty much all your capital away for Deshaun Watson if you're the Jets?
If I could get away with a first round this year, because they're going to use that pick for a quarterback anyway, right?
Yep.
So this year's doesn't count. That's like drafting Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, you trade it. Yep.
If I can get away with not giving them a first rounder next year, but give them the first round the year after and a second rounder next year. So if I give them my number 1 for 2021, 2023, and a second rounder for 2022,
Yep.
I'd pull the trigger on that in a heartbeat if I was the Jets, and I'd throw in Donald.
Darnold for a year. Here's
Darnold,
your bridge. Yeah, here's your bridge quarterback for a year if you want it. If you want to wait till and hope to get the number 1 pick next year and get the next Lawrence, because what we know is people are going, oh, Lawrence could be the best quarterback we've seen. Every year we hear this.
The Jets aren't drafting.
You're not getting Lawrence anyway. But I'm saying for like the Texans' point of view, every year this quarterback's the best quarterback we've seen in years. I can't remember the last time someone was like, oh, I don't know if he was as good as Andrew Luck back in 2011. Like every year this quarterback's the next big thing. So there's one every year.
Look at RG3. But the thing is with this year, if you're the Jets and you do that deal and then you're the Texans, so you've got a first round pick, you're not going to get oh my God, I've gone so blank. You're not getting Trevor Lawrence.
No.
But you do get the pick of the other 4.
Yeah.
Whichever one you think is the best, you can then go take them.
Yeah.
And you've got Darnold to have the shit kicked out of Darnold next year.
For a year, yeah. And best case scenario, Darnold comes in and he's good. And you're like, oh, well, now we have even more capital. We can try and trade Darnold, you know?
Yeah.
It was like when Drew Brees, when they drafted Phillip Rivers, and then Drew Brees had been kind of umming and ahhing, had that, breakout year, unfortunately got hurt at the end of it. And then, the rest of what is it? Miami chose to sign Dante Culpepper over him, and the rest is sorry, who decided to sign? Yeah, the Dolphins signed Culpepper over Drew Brees, and the rest is history. That's what
I'm telling you, that is the ultimate
sliding doors. Because if he gets Drew Brees, he probably doesn't go back to college. Well, not for a while anyway.
Yeah, and he might not have gone back to Alabama because they maybe have filled the position.
And weren't they crap then in Alabama? Weren't they? Yeah, they weren't a great program.
Terrible years leading in. Yep.
Yeah, it's a massive one. All right, let's wrap it up, Rich. That was great though. Thanks for being back, mate. Guys, we're back weekly now. You'll see me and Rich. The fantasy boys are having a bit of time off. Obviously, there's not a lot of fantasy stuff coming up. They'll be back just before the draft. Thank you to our fantastic sponsors at Burnley Brewing. Absolutely love your work, guys. And also Patreon. If you want to sign up to our Patreon, $10 a month, and you a chance to win a signed mini helmet. I meant to get it out, but there'll be pictures going up in the next few days. It's a mini Chase Winovich with the number 15 on it as well. Chrome Michigan Wolverines helmet. If you haven't seen a Michigan's Wolverine helmet, it's a really cool looking college lid. It's a cool lid. So you get a chance to win that. Second prize is also a box of beer from Burnley Brewing and a stubby holder or a beer holder or a beer koozie, whatever everyone calls it, whatever they are. You don't have to pick one sort. I'll put together a little like sample pack, or I'll put a few of all the different ones so you can try them all out, or you can just have one pack. It's up to you, but I'll be in contact who wins that. All the links below. Please sign up. Richie, thanks again, mate. We will see you next week. And thanks everyone for tuning in.